Hi everyone, we're just looking at this brand new home in this new development, and you say to yourself, well, why do I need a home inspection on a brand new house? But you really should have a home inspection on a brand new house, because no house build is going to be perfect. We're always going to find things that you guys are not going to be able to find as buyers of homes, because we're trained to look for certain things that are very, very important. So I'm going to go over a couple things that we found today. None of them is a dire emergency, but if you're spending $900,000 in a home in New Jersey that's a new build, you really should get a home inspection performed. After all the wall finishes and the house is ready to go, you have your home inspection. Then you take your home inspection report and information from your home inspector, and then you could possibly work with the builder to rectify some of those problems that we find. So let's just take a look at some of these things that I found today on this new construction home. As home inspectors, we're always harping on grading. And here we see that the grading at the back of this house is neutral. So we want to use the natural grade here. So they have a nice grade going out to the backyard here. But right close to the foundation walls, the grade is installed too neutral. So what's going to happen is, just like last night, wind-driven rain is going to maintain here close to the foundation wall, where we want to coax that. We want that water to be directed away from the foundation walls here. So that's something that's going to go in the report. Also, there is a foundation wall flashing. I don't know if you can see it or not. That's installed along this foundation wall edge here. And we want all exterior trims and flashings to also be sloped away from the foundation walls of the house, so water doesn't retain on this flashing and be directed back underneath. The idea of a flashing is water control. So we want to make sure that this flashing gets bent downward so water doesn't collect along this area, this edge at the back of the house. Very, very important here. If we move over here, we have some downspouts with splash blocks, but we want to make sure that we put downspout extensions to direct these downspouts further away from the exterior foundation walls. That's very, very important. If we look further along, this is the left side of the house here. There's some low areas against the foundation where that wind-driven rain can collect. So we're going to make a note to taper this away just so we can direct our water from the foundation walls in this area. This is a factory-built fireplace right here. This is going to be a gas fireplace, direct vent. In the back of this house, we have a very steep slope as we move further along. So we'll make a note of that. I don't think this is steep enough to warrant a retaining wall, but it is steep enough to just alert our client to, if they have any children out here. This is pretty steep pitch going out to the backyard. We have two PVC pipes over here, which vent to high efficiency equipment inside the home. We want to make sure that we have screens inside these PVC pipes, and the screens prevent wildlife from getting in those pipes, making a nest or calling it home. And then what happens is you put your furnace on and the furnace doesn't work, or the furnace backdrafts carbon monoxide gas into your house because there's a bird living in here, or a squirrel or chipmunk or something. So we want to see those screens. Easy fix, but just something that a lot of builders just don't do. So we're going to make a note of that. If we move over here to our deck, overall the deck is okay. But what I found here is that these posts up here, so we have our 6x6 posts with this notch technique with our through bolts. But what happened here was that the girder of the deck isn't resting right flush into this notch. So we have this big gap here. So we don't want to have this girder or beam directly supported only by the hardware. It has to have a nice support right here, so that beam has to have a nice resting place right inside this notch, which we do not have. So that's something that's just kind of a sloppy work. And if we go here on this other center beam and post connection too, we can see the same thing. So we have this gap here. We don't really want that. Is it truly unsafe? Probably not. But I mean, if you're spending 800 grand for a house, I mean, you kind of want this correct. If we go over here to the ledger of this deck and we look at our ledger connection to the deck, we see we have a lag bolt here, nothing in this bay. Then we have a lag bolt here, nothing in this bay, and a lag bolt here. So on this portion of the deck, this portion here, we don't have adequate number of lag bolts, and we also have lag bolts that are not installed in the up and down pattern or fashion that we want to see to properly secure the deck ledger to the house. If we move over here, we can see that the lag bolts have been properly installed. So one down, one up, one up, one down, one up, and one down. So this portion of the deck is much more secure than the other portion of the deck. I'm not really sure why this occurred, but we're definitely going to put that in the report for sure. So these are some of the things that we find during, new builds, when we look at new builds. So it is important to get your new build, professionally inspected as well. So we're going to take a look at a couple more things. If we look at this flashing at the back of this house on this foundation wall that we see it's raised, we don't want wind-driven rain to enter into this flashing. So this flashing should be sitting flush to this foundation wall ledge here. As we move down here, this is obviously our gas meter. We want to make sure that our downspouts are discharging away from the foundation wall. So splash blocks are good, but we want to extend that out about 4 or 5 feet just so we don't have any problems with that. We'll make a note of this driveway is in an unfinished condition, and that's probably just because they haven't finished paving it yet. They'll probably finish paving that in the springtime or early summer for sure. We don't want to have this downspout discharging water this close to the driveway because that's going to create an icing condition right over here. And we had a pretty heavy rain last night. So if we move out here, we see this large lake or puddle right here just in front of the driveway. So that water that's collecting over here is not making it to the storm drain. So that's something I'm going to make a note in the report, even though that street is not technically part of this property. But it will affect the occupants in this house because if this ice is over, that's going to be a problem. We don't want a lake out in front of your house. And I believe what's going on here is that the builder just hasn't finished paving this roadway and sloping that gravel or regrading that gravel to the storm drains that are located here and here. So that's something that's very, very important. If we move over here, I want to show you what's going on with these support columns. So whenever I see a support column like this, I want to give it a little push. And what happens here is that it moves. So these support columns, this one's loose, and that one's loose. So 3 out of the 4, I can push back and forth. In fact, this one here at the left corner of the house is being blown by the wind. It's going back and forth. So we want these obviously to be nice and tight to the porch so we have proper support of our porch roof. This is a discharge. This PVC pipe right here is a discharge for the sump pump in the basement. And we want to make sure that this gets extended out about 4 feet away. We had a heavy rain last night. This sump pump discharge is putting a lot of water over here. But we don't want all that water just to collect close to the foundation wall. We want to make sure that water gets directed away. So make sure you guys look for this. If you see a sump pump that's discharging too close to the exterior or even at your own home, simply put an extension on it and get it away here. PVC coupling and extend it out about 4 or 5 feet away from the foundation wall. You do yourself a good service because we don't want to have this water collecting so close to the foundation where it can seep back in, cause problems. I already took a look inside this garage. I inspected this garage, but some of the things that home inspectors are going to look for is a fire-rated wall here where the garage meets the structure of the home. So in case there is a fire in the garage, it doesn't chase quickly to the house. We're looking for the installation of a fire-rated door right here. This is the correct door. It does have a self-closer, so that door is going to close when you walk into the home to keep that fire rating of the garage. We're looking for proper operation of the garage door. Make sure that garage door opens smoothly and it doesn't bind. We're also looking for proper operation of your electric safety device. So when a child or pet crosses that beam, the door is going to rebound here. We're looking at all the walls and the ceilings to make sure there's no water staining or cracking, anything going on like that. We're also looking at the interior foundation walls to make sure there's no cracking or movement, anything going on with that, as well as your garage floor slab, making sure that there's no settlement or movement. This is a new build, so we're not going to really find any of this significant stuff because the house hasn't really settled, moved, shifted, or shrunk yet, and that obviously will happen in the future. But I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what home inspectors look for in a garage. This garage is pretty pristine. There's not a whole lot going on here. We also obviously test the automatic garage door opener for proper function, and this one operated fine. So let's move into the house and see what the basement looks like. This is the inside of our high efficiency furnace here. So this is where our exhaust gases go up and out. This is where fresh air comes in, combustion air right here. So the furnace doesn't oxygen starve itself. We always want to look at the data plate inside here. So this gives us information. If you look at the serial number on this particular manufacturer, which is York, we understand that this unit was manufactured in 2022, which is obviously a new unit. Life expectancy of a furnace like this is between 15 and 20 years, probably more closer to 20 years. We like to pull this cabinet to see if there's any kind of evidence of staining, rusting, anything going on at the bottom of this cabinet, because these units do create condensation. The condensation has to be piped out. And a lot of times we'll find water resting in here. We'll find the equipment that's rusting. Now, chances are we're not going to find that in this unit because it's brand new. We also want to come down here into the lower cabinet, and we want to open this cabinet as well. And we just want to peek in here. We want to make sure that this looks good. This is full of a lot of electronics. There's not a whole lot here that a client can service themselves, but we want to just look in here to make sure that we don't see any water staining, anything going on here, that everything looks good. We're going to run this unit, make sure that it functions correctly. We always want to show the client the location of your furnace filter, which is right here in this little slide cabinet. So that filter is about a 30-day filter that should be replaced about every 30 days. What sits up here is your air conditioning evaporator coil unit, and we understand that that's going to be the same age as the furnace. So this unit right here, this evaporator coil unit, has a life expectancy of about 15 years or so. But these units are brand new, still should be under plenty of warranty left. And we're going to run upstairs, we're going to put the thermostat on, and we're going to see how we do. Just put our furnace on. I'm listening for that furnace motor to kick in. I'm listening for the burners to fire up. Just making sure that everything is smooth, it's running well, there's no excess vibration, and it sounds okay. And it does. Now we're gonna go throughout the house, and we're gonna check the registers to make sure that there's adequate airflow, that they're configured correctly, and there's enough returns in the home. And this is a large house, so it only has one unit. I would really recommend two here because we're looking at a house that's well over 3,000 square feet. But sometimes this is what we have. We have one unit to do the large home. So we're going to try to, we can't run it on AC because it's too cold outside, but we're definitely going to put the paces through on the heating system to see how that operates. But you're probably going to find more of an issue with this home in the summertime due to having one unit than in the winter having one unit for as a furnace. Here we can see that the blower kicked on, and we're running pretty well. Sump pump over here, discharge line. This is a one-way valve or check valve, and this is the line that we saw going out to the left side of the house outside. We want to make sure that this line is a little bit strapped a little bit better so it just doesn't jiggle and move under pressure, excess vibration. We really want to make sure, because this pump is going off every 15-20 minutes now, that we have some kind of backup system, and that could be a water flow backup system, because our main water line is right here, so we can put our secondary pump in here and have it operate by the water pressure that's delivered from the street to circulate that water and pump that water out, which is the best thing to do. You could also put a battery backup or invest in a generator, but in any event, having a backup system for a sump pump is very useful, because if the power fails, that's when you want to have the pump work mostly. So just be aware of that. You have a sump pump in your own home, you want to have some type of backup system. Over here, it's ideal to have a water flow backup because of the close proximity of the main water pipe to the sump pump location. Here we have our electrical service panel. A few things that we look at with the panel cover on is we look at the main breaker, and we have a 200 amp electric service coming in. That's what we expect to see in a new build like this. We look for to make sure that everything is labeled and makes sense here, that we have specific breaker sizes for the air conditioning, and if we have an electric range. This little cage looking thing, this is usually the breaker for the dishwasher. So in case you have to have dishwasher work performed by a technician, you can put a little lock on this so the breaker remains in the off position, so you don't inadvertently put the breaker to the dishwasher on. Never really understood the logic in that one, but anyway, that's what we see all the time. That's required. Here we have our arc fault circuit interrupter breakers right here, and these breakers are specific breakers that help prevent and trip if they sense a fire or arcing in the walls of the house or in the electrical wiring. So this is required. This is code that these have to be installed in most areas of the home now. So these are expensive breakers. That's what we see. That's what we look for on a new build. The next thing to do is take this electrical panel cover off and see how we're doing inside the panel box. I have the electrical panel box cover off here in this panel box, and this panel box looks great. It's brand new. It's been inspected by the municipality as well. But some of the things as home inspectors, what we're going to look for are 2 wires on a single breaker, which is often referred to as double tapping. We would also look for double tap neutral wires. We would look for rust and corrosion inside this panel box, because sometimes moisture enters where it shouldn't be entering. We're looking for the proper wire sizes and the proper breaker sizes to make sure that they match correctly and are going to be safe. We're looking for the proper breakers. In this case, they're arc fault circuit interrupter breakers, so we're looking for that. We're looking for the general condition of the wiring, making sure that nothing is singed, nothing is pulled too tight, everything enters correctly, and that there are no loose breakers here. We're looking for the proper bonding, which is right here of the electrical panel box. We're looking for just overall general condition of the box itself, and the branch circuit wiring, which is up above here. We want to see that nicely neat and stapled like it is. We don't want to see a rat's nest. We don't want to see a bunch of spaghetti up here for safety. But overall, this panel box is looking okie doke. This is a finished lower level walkout basement style. So our registers are located in the ceiling, one here and one here. So what's going to happen? Heat's going to obviously come out of these registers. It's going to go up. So we're going to find that this room down here in the basement is colder in temperature than the rooms upstairs. This is going to be efficient for air conditioning, because that conditioned air, which is cold, wants to fall, but our heating wants to rise and go up to the ceiling and up through the ceiling. So it's likely that we're going to have colder temperatures down here. We're going to let our client know that if they're uncomfortable, if they're colder in the winter months down here than upstairs, they can always install a supplemental heating unit, like an electric baseboard heater, something like that over here, or a mini split unit, maybe come out of here, heat pump, something like that. But that's what happens when we have a lower level with our registers in the ceiling. You got to watch out for colder temperatures down here. Tankless water heater. We know that that water heater was manufactured in 2022 with about a 10-12 year life expectancy. Where people go wrong with these tankless water heaters is that you have to descale and maintain these water heaters yearly. So if you don't maintain it, you're not going to maximize its life expectancy, and you're going to get a shorter life expectancy. It's maybe not going to perform or be efficient as it should be. So make sure that you properly maintain these water heaters if you have one, or if you're thinking about purchasing a home with a tankless unit like this. I want to show you guys something over here. So this piping right here, this thin PVC pipe right here, that goes to a point in the foundation, actually the basement floor here. This is a suction point, and this is a radon pipe here. So if we come back with high levels of radon gas, this piping goes all the way up through the house, through the first floor, second floor, all the way to the attic space. And so the builders made it very convenient to put a radon fan system in here in the attic space. That fan has to be located in the attic. It can't be located in the basement or the living space, only the attic or the exterior. So in this case, with this configuration, it would be located in the attic. So this is good to have in case you see a pipe like this and you wonder what it is. Don't confuse it with a drain line. It is a radon mitigation pipe that currently does not have a fan installed. What's a useful tool to have is a pocket thermal imaging camera. And we see all those blue areas there around the sliding door and where the interior lower level walls meet the floor and the carpeting. Those are areas where insulation has not been installed tightly. So we see a lot of areas of air loss. And this is one thing that this camera can do, but this is not uncommon to find this. You see all that blue there? That's heat loss, that's air loss that's going on in the home. And if we look over here, we see a lot of areas of blue. So I suspect that that area there on that left side exterior foundation wall is missing areas of insulation altogether. So that's something I'm going to alert our client to, and maybe the builder can just check into that, because that is like 39.7 degrees right in there. Very, very cold, and that's going to create a cold space down here in the finished lower level. So using a thermal imager as a home inspector is another tool in the toolbox. It's definitely not a catch-all, but it has some use for sure. I like to scan ceilings and walls because sometimes it just adds more information, and the more information that I can tell my client, the better off they're going to be. Running water at the sink, and under the sink here, we just want to make sure that everything makes sense, that we have good connections of the waste pipe, that we have a high loop in our dishwasher discharge right here, which is required. We want to make sure that we also tell the client that these PEX pipes right here, which are PVC, don't really love these plastic valves because they're a problem, but nothing I can really do about that. But these pipes right here should be properly supported. And this is a Studer vent, or AAV. This is how they're venting the sink. It's a vent that opens and closes to allow air behind the water when you're using your sink. So that helps prevent gurgling and slow drainage from the sink. So overall, this looks pretty good. I'll just probably mention that these pipes right here should be properly supported. You never really see them supported though. They're just kind of usually just flapping around like this, and we'll probably see that in the bathrooms as well. No crisis here, just a couple minor things, nothing major. I'm just checking the airflow from these registers in the second floor. The first floor was okay, basement was okay other than being located in the ceiling. And here we have pretty good airflow coming out of these registers, which I like. So I'm going to check each one. I'm going to put my hand up here. I'm going to feel the velocity of the air coming out. Nothing fancy, but if I were to put my hand here and I don't have any airflow and it feels very, very weak or faint, well, then that's going to be a problem. So that's going to be reported on. But so far, these registers have been okay. And you may ask yourself, well, why don't you just point your fancy thermal imager up to the ceiling, and that will tell you the temperature of the registers, of the air. And actually, that doesn't work well, because what a thermal imager does is it just tells me the temperature of this register here. So that temperature will be indicated by the thermal imager, but it doesn't tell me anything about the airflow. So that's why I want to actually get up on a ladder and I want to feel this velocity coming out of here. There's nothing like old-fashioned hard work when you do a home inspection, and this is one of those things that really pays off big for clients, is that we actually do the work and we feel these registers, each one, and determine if they are operating properly or not, and just not walk around with a fancy thermometer seeing that they're hot, but the airflow could be very light or faint. Just about to enter the attic space here. Now, this is going to be a roof truss system. It's not going to be a storage type attic, but of course, as home inspectors, we always want to get up into the attic space. And one of the things that we want to look at is how the attic access ladder or pull down ladder is attached to its opening. And a lot of times we'll see these screws right here. These will be sheet metal screws or drywall screws that secure the attic pull-down ladder to its opening. And the manufacturer clearly states that it should be secured on all four sides with 16D nails or lag screws. And we don't have any of those here. What we have is basically these sheet metal screws or these drywall screws right here. And so will it be okay? Probably, but it's not really correct. So we want to make sure that this ladder is properly secured. So that's something that we're going to report on. Now we're going to go up into the attic space and see what we see. It's likely that we're not going to be have any floor up here. So we're going to have to just traverse this attic very carefully if we can at all. So let me get up here and then we'll see what we see. We're up in our attic space now, and this is a roof truss system. So this framing system is manufactured, it's engineered, it comes in on a crane, it's put up very quickly, and its purpose is just really to hold up the roof. If you look down here, there's no flooring in this attic. We have a lot of blown in insulation here. It's very, very thick insulation. We don't really want to be walking up here because we're going to disturb this insulation and compact it. Plus, we really need to be careful where we're going because you have to walk on the bottom cord of the roof truss, it's kind of dicey. So I'm going to look at this attic from just the top of the stairs so I don't become a statistic and come down into the lower level if I fall through. So here we see our roof truss. These members right here are called cords. Our top of the roof truss right here is called our top cord. These are called webs. At the bottom, covered with insulation, these are our bottom cords. And as a home inspector, what I'm looking for here is that everything looks good. I don't want to see any cracking, any damage, any modifications at all to a roof truss system, because any modifications are an issue. Because it is a designed and engineered structure, any modifications have to be corrected and designed by either an architect or a structural engineer. So we definitely don't want to see that because that opens a big can of worms. We're also looking at these metal plates at the top of the webs and where the top of the webs meet the upper cord. And we're making sure those gusset plates or nailing plates are looking good, are all secure. A lot of times we'll find those missing or bent. So I'm kind of limited in what I can actually see in this attic. I'm just doing my inspection, taking a look at everything. I certainly looked at everything before I started filming, but it looks okay. I'm pretty happy with the way this is. I don't see any water staining, any damage to the underside of the roof or trusses. I don't see any areas of insulation that are missing. A lot of times with this type of insulation, you'll see it installed in a non-homogeneous manner where there's low areas, there's high areas, there's piles, and I don't see that here. I see that our insulation is looking pretty good, and it's pretty evenly spaced and installed throughout the attic here. So that's really about it. I'm going to wrap this one up. Pretty good house, new build, not too much to speak of, but there are a couple of things, few things that our client should maybe ask the builder to repair for sure, and we'll put together this home inspection report. That'll be ready the next day. And if I can help you guys with anything, you have questions about anything, and we're looking for a great new build home inspection, give me a call, John from LookSmart Home Inspections, right here in New Jersey. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.